Welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Alexio Show. I'm the host, Alexio Barbara, and today I'm going to be introducing Sean Levitan here. He is the producer at a creative agency in LA that works with all kinds of brands on lifestyle.
Humans Are Social. We do commercials, mini docs, social stuff, anything real video, from like big productions to small, lean skeleton crew operations.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here in sunny San Diego on the beach, sitting with my feet in the sand.
Wow, well, I gotta say, since I've known you, we've always had like a soft spot in our heart for creative content producing and you know, pushing the boundaries of drones. And
you pulled me into it a little bit. Like when I graduated from GoPros to real cameras, you were there to like hold my hand.
I think we were both there together, like exploring it. We both decided on Sony, and we're just you know, meeting up on weekends trying to shoot cool things.
It's cool too because our creative routes were so different. Like you were always the guy that had the gear early on. Like even in college, you had the first drone, and I remember being like, this dude just loves to create. You're really adventurous, you're really creative, but you actually turn it into content. And then later in life, like early to mid 20s, when we lived in San Diego together, you were like, I just want to make stuff, I want to create content. and you were like, I want to keep it as a passion. And I was like, I want to do the same thing, but I want to get paid for it. And it was interesting because that's where we split, but we always have done stuff together. But you were always like, this is my passion, like I make money over here in real estate and other places, this is my passion. And I was like, I want to make money here.
And I thought that was really cool too. And also because that became your everyday, you found a lot of secrets that, you know, you then shared with me. I think we've had a lot of conversations about lighting and, you know, the nuances of photography, which has been really cool. But, you know, the point of this podcast is to talk about journeys and secrets to the trade that help everybody from laymen like myself to industry professionals succeed and get to where they are in life. And some people are farther along in the journey than others. The goal here is to pay homage to that journey and find solidarity in the trials and tribulations that we all face.
Yeah, this is a good time actually to interview me because in that same vein, I feel like I'm in a little bit of like a full lap where I was so lost early on and I didn't want to go the conventional route, and I went a very, you know, unorthodox route, and it was terrible for a long time. And finally, like, it came full circle right now, and like what I'm doing, I wouldn't have been able to get to without having gone through those like off the beaten path roads.
Right, so let's talk about that. Tell me about that journey. What were the things that worked and what didn't work? What are some of the...
I'll give you the quick like minute rundown for context for people because I feel like that stuff's less sexy. But after college, I did tech sales, super corporate, and I hated it because I just felt like it was limiting me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I moved down to San Diego. That's when we really deepened our friendship, and I just wanted to make videos. So I worked at a production house just to get closer to video work, and that was super fun, but I could feel like I wanted to know more. And I had this dream in the background of funding like a clothing line. I just wanted a business. Like I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just needed a thing. And so I kind of realized I needed to like niche down on my like business. And I've always wanted to do apparel, and I really liked mindfulness, meditation, stillness. And I could tell that like meditation was only going to grow. This was going to be an industry that was only going to grow. So I was like, that's a good place to play. So let's marry that with apparel. And so I launched an apparel brand and kind of recruited all of our friends, grassroots. Everyone was helping for like 3 or 4 years. And I was funding it with all of my creative endeavors. So it was anything from like freelancing to working full-time as a creative director, but like very heavy production video creative director stuff that was funding my apparel brand. And it finally got to the point where I realized like this apparel brand isn't working the way I thought. I got to pull out, and my true calling was video work. But within that video work, I thought, and the way I had been doing it was like me with 20 backpacks. I'm gonna light it, I'm gonna drone it, I'm gonna film it, I'm gonna edit it, I'm gonna do audio. And I realized like I'm more of a producer. And so what a producer is someone who sits more behind the scenes and like gets budget, makes sure that we have talent, we have location, just brings everything together.
Business side of it.
Yeah, it's like the business side, but it's because I understand the creative aspects, like the creative components so well. I did it for so long, like what, 5-6 years, so long for me, that it actually helped me do a better job. And it is a very like business oriented mindset, but because I have that creative background, it meshes well.
Right, you know what's possible, you know how long it's going to actually take to set something up. You know, today we talked about doing 20 minutes to set this up. It ended up being 40. It's kind of...
That's light. That's good. That's fast. That's longer than what we anticipated, but that's so much quicker than what I'm used to.
Right, but then knowing how many cameras do we need? How many actual people do we need holding cameras.
Yeah.
You know, having done it yourself and really pushed your, like, redlined it to the max, doing everything yourself, you know what people's limits are. And on the business side of it, on the creative side, you're able to bring that to the table and know, be more efficient and direct the production efficiently.
No, exactly. And I feel like I know what it takes to put a production together, and like it's really easy for me to now talk to clients and be like, what do you want to create? And then based on how much money you have, like, here's the different options we can give you. So if you have $100,000, like, we can make this for you. We can also take that same idea and goal that you have and do it with 3 or 4 people. It's just going to look way different, but it's still going to, like, accomplish what you need. It's based off of basically what people want and how much money they have and, like, how we can achieve those goals for them.
Right. That's funny, because as you're saying that, it kind of it reminds me of real estate, and how a lot of times people look at a transaction and they say, oh my God, the roof's falling off. What is that going to cost me? $1 million? And I know it's going to be like about $15,000 to $20,000. Let's account for that in the budget and see if we can work with that off the price. But understanding the real cost of things, like, makes you so powerful in that space, because someone has a dream, everything you need to do to get to that dream. Whereas, a lot of people have cool dreams, but all those steps in between, it's too big of a mountain to climb. So they just move on to the next. So it makes you really, I think, maneuverable in this space.
There's a whole process you go through. That's kind of what leveled me up. Was I was doing it by myself for so long, and I could tell, like, I just needed to be around people or, like, someone that knew it really, really well. And so that the guy, my creative mentor that I ended up partnering with, he's now my business partner.
Right.
He was in the agency world. He was like the Donald Draper of the agency world for 20 years. And he was in huge rooms. Like, he was part of one of the most famous Super Bowl commercials of all time. The, like, Volvo commercial where the little kid is trying to use the force to do things around the house, and then he uses the force to start the car because the dad has the push to start from the keys. And he does it, and it's like the kid freaks out. It's touted as one of the most famous Super Bowl commercials of all time, and, like, he was in the rooms that came up with the ideas, and he did that 1,000,000 times for, like, huge companies. So just being around him, I learned so much. When people come with High Noon comes and they're like, this is what we want to achieve. Like, we want a campaign that makes people drink our beverage on the beach. I see how he reverse engineers campaigns and then creates video productions around those.
Right.
And it's so cool to watch, because now when people come to me, I'm like, okay, I got those tools polished a little more, or I can do a version of that. He's insane.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever be able to touch where he's at, but that's why I don't do that role. I'm not the creative director.
But I think there's a lesson in that, and that's, if you want to master something, you have to find someone who is a master of that subject to accelerate your process.
That's what I want.
That goes in all fields, I think.
Yeah, exactly. For me in life, it was always like, find people that know the thing really well, and then be in a situation where there's no ceiling. Every time there was, like, a ceiling to my learning or my growth, I would get claustrophobic. That's why I couldn't do the corporate thing. It was just too slow, and I was like, I want to fly. Like, I'm a quick learner. I like to move fast. I don't want to have handcuffs anywhere. Like, if I'm doing well, I want my growth to track.
The idea of freedom behind entrepreneurship and owning your own business, results are directly correlated to your effort.
Yeah.
And so if you put in more effort than the next guy, sky is the limit.
Yeah. It's funny you said, the key for me, once I realized that was the equation, like, I'm my own boss. However much time I put in is what I get out. I was going to put in all my time. That was not the right approach for me, and I think a lot of people burn out. They say, like, you quit your full-time job and then you're an entrepreneur, and instead of, you wanted freedom, but you created a prison, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it's up to you, and now you feel like you're never off.
Yeah.
And, like, rest was so important for me, and that was a goal that I struggled with for a while. I was like, how do you give yourself rest when you feel like you're always on the clock? And the second I actually started to give myself rest, like, I made more money, and I was more successful because I was less burned out, a little more clear.
What kind of things did you do to rest?
It was honestly the quality of my rest. Like, sometimes I just want to binge a show all day, and I would feel guilty when I would do that in the past. So, like, the quality of my rest was laced with guilt and shame, and that's not real rest.
Right.
So it's like allowing myself to actually do those things and enjoy them was important for me. But I think nature is, like, the biggest one. Friends in nature, stillness, like literally going and sitting on a rock in a forest or somewhere and just, like, for hours and just really letting your mind clear.
I think when you're saying that, it reminds me of that one trip we did together up to Desolation Wilderness.
Desolation.
And man, we had a good time up there. And I remember you were like, I'm so burnt out. I'm not even bringing my camera. And I was like, well, I've been working, so I'm ready to get my camera going.
That's the difference between your passion and my like professional.
Right. Well, there's a lot of ways to get to that end goal, and I think we've outlined two. One is either you pursue your passion and dedicate your life to it, and that is your everything, or you work on something that you know is going to pay the bills and still make time for your passion, with the end goal of one day being able to do your passion every single day of your life. And passions change over time too. Like I used to love making
taking photos, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I still love photos, but I love making videos about literally anything. I was just like people jumping on a trampoline in the backyard.
Yeah, let's just film it.
Droning through the trees because
why not?
Yeah, it's like, wow, I can fly. This is awesome. But over time, it's like I don't even really pull out my drone unless like I have an idea or and really if it's like golden hour, like I'm very
what's right.
So over time your passions evolve and change, and I think that's also important to know when you are deciding which path you're going to go. The passion path to success, where I'm going to devote everything to that, or the medley between finding something that makes money and then making time for passion on the side. Because if you devote your life to a passion that eventually changes, sometimes you can feel trapped and you're like, this isn't even what I like to do.
You outgrow the decisions you make that cement you in your reality.
But that's one thing that I really like about you, Sean, is that as you've been pursuing this passion, you've run into these things. You've realized that maybe I'm not the guy behind the camera, I'm more of this production role. And you've found a place where you could sit and call home, where you've been able to pivot and every time find another way to continue staying interested and evolving and becoming more of a resource in that career. And I think that stems from something that all humans suffer with, and that's controlling our attitude in every given situation. And I think, all of us have fallen victim to, feeling down in the dumps, feeling like everybody's out to get us, like nothing's going our way. But I think every time, what's really cool with you, I mean, we all were there with you on your shirt brand, and honestly, I love those shirts. I still wear them every day.
They're coming back. We have a play. They're coming back.
I'm looking forward to that and helping you on that endeavor. But even when we were doing that, and then you decided, hey, like now I have a problem where we have a copyright issue.
Yeah.
You still showed up the next day with the same contagious energy that just got everybody in the group excited. And I think that that's admirable. You never let yourself get stuck in that down situation. I think it's a testament to the fact that we all have that within us to consciously make a decision to see the glass half full versus half empty and show up with a smile.
That's like the meditation, the stillness. I feel like whenever I get into a funk, I just have to pull back and look at my whole life, look at all the things I have going for me, and like stop focusing on the negative. And it sounds so like corny, but really just sitting in stillness and like appreciating what you have gives you such a reframe on your reality. And then it's like when problems come, you start to laugh at them and you almost expect them. Like early on, problems would sink me because I'd have a goal and I'm like, anything that derails me, like I'm done. And now it's like you have a goal and there's gonna be 1,000,001 things that go wrong. And so when they go wrong, you're like, all right, I was ready.
It weathers you to it. You get thick skin. And I think it's funny because it's like, as an entrepreneur, you're looking down this road and like you see the goal, but then in between you and that road is like a volcano, a waterfall. You've got to traverse a lake and you can't really see them all at the start, but they're going to be somewhere on the way. Or you're going to run into the troll that doesn't let you across, and you have to figure out how to get past them. And it's at first it seems demotivating as hell, but as you do it more and more, it's like it becomes expected, and you train your brain to, instead of wasting all that time feeling down in the dumps, you just immediately turn into problem solving mode. And figure it out.
You gotta kind of drive your destiny, but be open to detours. And I think that's like the balance of not over controlling. Like you have to be doing stuff. You have to put yourself in positions where things are gonna happen for you, but then you also have to kind of be open to them not playing out the way that you wanted and react in a way where you're like, how can I actually use this for the better? And it's like you see the mountain you want to climb on, you still have to walk towards it, and then you start to realize like maybe there's a mountain off to the side that has a waterfall, and that's actually a better mountain. You never would have known.
Check it out.
Until you got closer. And so that's a very like natural way to look at things. But I feel like unless you're actually doing stuff, things aren't gonna happen for you. That's why I started the apparel brand, was like, I just need to do something. Like, just do something.
Yeah.
That makes enough sense.
Yeah, you're like, you have, I think entrepreneurs, you just have this like angst inside, like I gotta create something.
Gotta be,
I gotta
yeah.
create something, and you're like, what am I gonna create? A business? I'm gonna do this, that. You're really into fashion and clothing. You decided to pair that with your interest in content.
Yeah.
You're like, this is what we're gonna do. And instead of just keep thinking about analysis paralysis, what we talk about in the industry, you made it happen.
Yeah.
And you did make it happen. You produced
It is
a
real.
lot of shirts that were really cool, and everybody who wore them liked them. What then it came down to was economies of scale and years and essentially funding at the end. I think.
Yeah, we got to the point where it was like, all right, you need to put 200K in. And I was like, that to me was creating a reality where I was like, do I want that to be my life? Like, this has been a tough few years. So I was like, not yet. I'm not ready. But it's cool because now I help brands in the e-commerce space because I've done it and I've got my ass kicked, and I know when people are like, here's our goal, here's our vision, here's what we're trying to do. I'm like, okay, here are some things I would recommend you watch out for.
I think every experience that you go through in life, if you leave it with a learning experience like that, where you're coming out with actual lessons from the experience, there's always someone who you can help with the things that you've learned over time. And I think that bringing that perspective and evolving that perspective, eventually you've seen a lot of things that makes you deadly in the space that you apply yourself to. I know in real estate, I see it's exciting for me to talk to people now because I've been doing it for 8 years, so I've been through a lot of the trials and tribulations, city inspector showing up, getting permits for renovations to not getting permits for interior renovations, getting stuck with the city with COVID, where every employee decided not to work for a year and the projects just got delayed indefinitely. But your loan payments did it, so you had to make it work one way or another. Also working with tenants to move them into another property so you can do the renovations, increase the rents. There's a lot that goes into it, and you really can't learn it overnight or from a textbook. You have to learn it from experience.
Those experiences, they culminate into like a calmness when stuff goes wrong.
Right.
You've seen enough. It's like, it could be a new problem, but you've seen enough go wrong where you're comfortable that you'll get through it. Because like, I'm resourceful. If I stay diligent, I'll work through this. But it's like weird because when we were first starting out, that stuff could sink us. And now it's like, it's bigger problems that we still haven't seen, but there's just some confidence that comes with those years. And I still think we're pretty early on. Like, we've so much.
Yeah. I can't wait to see where we go.
Yeah. Like, it feels like for me, it feels like I'm still early on, but I'm finally starting to catch my rhythm. And, you start to build skill sets here and here and here. And it feels like I'm at the point where like things are starting to connect and amplify. And it's exciting because you're like, ooh, I didn't know those two would touch there and like actually boost and make me even stronger.
And I think that there's something there too. I think that the universe inherently rewards those who are persistent and chase their dreams, because then you end up at these like exhilarating moments where you're like, it's all culminating, it's all working. Just patting yourself on the back and saying, we did it. It's working. Maybe not even we did it, but we're on the right path. You
get those wins. You get those wins.
Yeah.
I mean, it's risky. Like, the accountability, the skin in the game for me is the difference. Because when something goes right, you're like, wow, that was because of me or us. Like we got to that win. And it feels different when I was at corporate and we get a win. It's like, I barely touched that. Like, it's fun to celebrate it, but it's like less skin in the game and it just doesn't feel the same.
You said something earlier about meditation and mindfulness and health. I think that's always been a big
Philosophies,
goals, ways of living your life. What are some tips as you've explored that space that you might that you found work really well for you?
It's really important to know what you want to do, like what you want your life to look like. A lot of entrepreneurs want to make a ton of money, and that's fine, but I feel like that's just a means to an end. So what are you going to do with the money? Like, what does your life actually look like when you have the money to spend on the things you want to spend them on and the way you want your life to look? For me, it was like, I realized that making a lot of money could sometimes be a little bit of a sickness. Like, a lot of the people that were rich around me didn't have great lives. They were rich, but I look at the way they wake up and I was like, I don't want that life. So for me, it was kind of like, I want to live a life that's grounded and healthy. I have like strong vitality, and I also have money. I don't need enough money to buy like islands and shit, but I want enough money to have freedom where I can like do what I want when I want and mix it with a healthy lifestyle. So going a little slower was really helpful for me. I felt this urgency early on, like we need results, we need wins, and that's just like working against the engine. I felt like when I was like bringing this stress and urgency, it was actually hurting me in the long run. So all to say, I think a meditation practice is essential, therapy is essential, taking time out to reflect on yourself and your growth as a human, like who you are. You know, what's your identity? Is your identity tied to your work? Like, is that healthy for you? What are you without your work? Like, these questions early on help steer the ship so that when you get to where you think you're trying to go, it's not the wrong place. And quieting down helps bring clarity so you can answer some of those questions.
So, quieting down, I think a lot of people, I was one of them, still I'm kind of one of them. What is meditation to you? When you say, yeah, it's important to meditate, what does that mean?
I used to think meditation was sitting down for like 10, 20 minutes every day and just like focusing on the breath, letting my mind clear and calm down, like watching my thoughts, not chasing them, and then exploring things once I was in like a calmer state. Now, I feel like meditation's the whole day. Like you're going through the day and it's like you gotta kind of stay present. That's the practice, is to go about your day and like stay connected to your breath, not spin out with anxious thoughts. Like stay grounded, stay present. Like I'm here with you right now, looking in your eyes. Like that's the only thing I'm supposed to be doing right now, not worrying about anything else. And so like it's this constant
Directing
practice.
your focus.
Yeah, directing your focus.
Having control over that.
It's not even having control. It's like being okay. It's the awareness that you are fully tapped in. If we get too much in our heads, then we are missing out on a lot of the stuff going on around us because we're lost in a reality that we're creating up here. So it's kind of like quieting that down and focusing more on your senses. Like what are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you tasting? Like those senses are your feedback to this actual moment. And this actual moment is going to give you a lot of clarity and being able to like guide your life. If you live your life tapped into the present moment, you're going to be able to steer this thing called life the way you want it because you're actually tapped into it. If I go through my whole life worried about stuff, like my biggest fear is like losing family or business failing. Like if I go through my life too worried about that, chances are I'm going to make mistakes that end up taking me to that place.
Right.
If I let those worries go and I just stay here and I'm here with you and enjoying my day, I'm coming from a way more grounded place with way more clarity to be able to make decisions that help me go where I actually want to go.
That's maybe something I really needed to hear because I think I get caught up in the business of this is the end goal, this is where we need to be. And I have conversations with Taylor about this and with our kid. And, you know, sometimes I'll get caught up on emails in the evening and, you know, Taylor will ask me something and I'm completely like in my email.
Somewhere else.
And it's about, I think that there's a lesson in that. I get caught up focusing on the goal and the end result, which is maybe 5-10 years down the line. But I think I need to not forget about those moments between now and then. How to maximize those too, because I could be working towards this goal my whole life. And I get to the end of my life, I hit the goal and I'm like, well, now I got it, but I didn't live my life.
The goal is the journey. Like we need to know where we want to go. It's important to aim, drive your destiny, but the goal is the moment. Like you're going to get somewhere that you think brings you the satisfaction, like this sensation that you've completed something, but you're going to get there and feel incomplete if you didn't enjoy the steps getting there. That's why I'll have these weird moments now where I get so warm and glowy in my chest because for no reason. It's like a Tuesday afternoon and I'm just working, but I'm like, this is literally it. Like I imagine, what is your dream outcome in 10 years? Like where do you want to be? And I imagine being there. I'm going to be reminiscing about this moment.
It's funny how that works. Sometimes like you have these like deja vu flashbacks too, where you're like, God, I remember like, it's actually funny because this beach where we're at right now, I remember growing up like windsurfing with my mom on the other side of this bay.
Funny.
Looking at these apartments and being like, wow, those are like really nice apartments.
Can you imagine
and
if
this
I
is
lived there?
like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to come here all the time windsurfing. I used to sometimes windsurf across to the side of the bay and just play on the sand here. I was like, whoa, that was so far. And, you know, perspective, it's just across the bay now. But
now you're here. You're here.
Yeah, now you're here. And I think back on that moment.
So that memory.
Even though I was just a kid, like, you know, having random funny thoughts. But it's really fun when you have those deja vu flashbacks of that moment in time where you were in the moment thinking about how cool something was.
Let's bring it back to entrepreneurship then. That's why I think it's important not to have a goal that just brings you money. The goal should be, what do I want to do for like 10, 20 years that brings me joy? That's why I love what I do, is like I had to say no to the good money early on and do the creative stuff, the stuff that brought me a lot of joy. And I was like, if I could find a way to make this make me money, my life would be amazing. And I did. I found a way to live a good life every day, going in, working with people that I love, doing stuff that I love. I bring alive my creativity and get paid for it. And it's like, I can do that every day. That's why on a Tuesday afternoon, my chest is glowing because I'm like, this is so fun. And it's like, I think we get lost in the goals too much. And we always talk, well, you hear it all over Instagram, but there's something there where we're just getting lost in the outcome. And we're not focusing enough on like the steps. What does it actually look like to get there? Not to say it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard. But at least tie it to something that you enjoy doing enough that you can do every day that you don't burn out on.
And I think there's something in that too. Even if you find yourself in a job that seems super tedious, like for example, any sales job is not particularly the most fun starting out.
Right.
You're calling a lot of people, everybody's annoyed with you, and you're trying to find ways to shift your speech. But if you can find a way to apply yourself and get interested in it, maybe it's like, okay, I'm going to try this today, that today. That's how I always found ways to overcome the mundaneness of these tasks as you're kind of breaking into an industry. And even if it's an industry you're not super excited about, find ways to get interested in it. Maybe I guarantee you there's like one avenue or branch that might cause you to think twice and be like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. I'm going to read more into that. And the more you apply yourself, the more you can find solace and resolve in the journey.
You're touching on one of the reasons why I love you the most. Curiosity. You're someone who lives life with so much curiosity. And immediately I was magnetized to that. Like when I saw how much curiosity you live with, you're someone who travels a lot, you love adventure, you love experiences, and you have a ton of curiosity. I was mesmerized early on watching you just consume life because you had so much curiosity, and I think it brings you a lot of satisfaction in life because it allows you to do somewhat mundane things with a lot of excitement because you're like, there is something in here to learn. It's tied with optimism. There's elements in there that create this version of curiosity for you, but it's something that I've always loved about you because I want to be around those people that are just curious about life because this whole experience is for us to explore. And if you're too caught up in your head and negativity, you're missing the whole point. And you're someone who I feel like does not do that. Like you work hard, but you're also someone who plays hard. And like we're about to go foiling. There's foil boards behind us. Like you are like, to me, the epitome of adventure and curiosity. And like we're doing a podcast on the beach right now with cold drinks and foil boards behind us.
We're gonna supercharge life, man. That's what it's about. We're gonna suck every ounce of energy out of this thing.
Dude, stick to people like you. I mean, you have to look around and the people in your life, and they have to fill your cup. They have to fuel you. That's why I hung close to you because I was
I'm gonna say, Sean, I mean, I could have been interviewing anybody and done it in my living room today, but our creative, there's like some synergy there, and like that created this experience here where all of a sudden it was like, hey, do you like to e-foil? Yeah, I've done it once before. Cool. We'll throw e-foils in the back. Hey, you want to do it in our house? Nah, it'll be a little more lit on.
It'll be cooler. Yeah. How can we make this a little more elevated?
So just take it to the next level. And I think that's what it's all about. And you know what? It's like next time doing this again, it's going to be like, what else do we bring down?
Yeah.
What are we doing next?
We set the baseline even higher.
Are we going to put this in the water?
Yeah, next podcast, we're going to have our feet in the water. Trust.
This is a question I asked to all my podcast guests. At South Coast and my team, Gonzalez Barber Group at Line CRE, we preach good business only. What does good business mean to you?
Tons of bad business. I mean, I feel like we're all sifting through the economy, finding good people to work with and then holding them tight.
Right
as you try to find more of them. The good business to me is integrity. It's people that understand humanity. Our company's called Humans Are Social. Like we like working with humans, and our whole brand is about like being honest about the situation. Like life happens and we're cool with that, but being compassionate, empathetic, that's important. Like I want to be with people who see me. There's this old school of thought where we're focused on being like really professional, and it makes us kind of stiff and it takes away our humanity. I like to operate where you can drop that and still get the same things done, but be more human with people. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that I like to...
Less corporate and more of a...
Be honest, be human.
Like person, an authentic person.
And COVID helped with that because we're working from home, there's kids running through the background of Zoom calls, everyone's a little closer to the other
Everybody
person.
realizes this is a real
This is a
real
person. Yeah.
This isn't some
And that's good.
corporate officer that has everything figured out and is a robot.
Yeah.
It's another person just like me, having the same, stepping on the same Legos that I am.
Yeah, and that makes it easier to communicate with them. So I think like integrity is big, communication is big, honesty is big, compassion is big. If people that I work with have those elements, then I can do a ton of business with them. And that's the people that it feels like I do more business with. The people that
you're excited to go and work for and even do a better job.
Yeah.
Because there's someone that you want to like do more with.
You're right. When things are going great, everyone is easy to work with. I judge it off when things aren't going well. Like what happens when there's an expensive problem that one of us has to pay for? Either you're gonna have to shell out more budget or we're gonna have to do free work. Like what's the compromise here? And you can see like when things aren't going great, who am I dealing with then? And once I've gone through the trenches with people in the lows and we've come out together, I'm like, I'm sticking with you. Like that's good business. I'm staying with them for as long as I can.
I think that's a great answer. I'm curious, what can you briefly, I guess, abstractly go over one of those examples of a low and how you guys overcame it?
Yeah, so
in relations with a client?
Sure. We had a really expensive commercial that we were filming, and it's really important early on to map out the expectations. Like you're gonna spend X amount of money and you're gonna get 3 final videos. It's gonna be like the main one and 2 alternate versions, okay? We're all good on that. And it gets really nitty gritty, like where are the commercials gonna run? Because if they're on if they're on TV versus social media, like you need different rights from the talent and blah, blah.
And different shooting standards.
Formats. Yeah,
vertical
for sure.
versus horizontal.
We wanna know like, what are the final deliverables? What are the expectations? At what point do we give you something and the job is done? Because if you're vague there, you never really feel like the job is done. So we're concepting for like a few months and we reach a pretty good idea. We get a deposit, like we're funding it, and all of a sudden they need the deposit back. But we've put in, 3 months worth of work, and it's like, where do you go? Like what's the point of the deposit, right?
Right.
The deposit was to pay for, it was basically
to pay for the R&D, the work that you do.
Yeah. And so you're looking at this situation and you're like, hey, this could end really poorly. Like we could just play hardball and say, no, we don't want to work with you anymore. Like we're keeping it later. We weighed the option. It was like hardball is like going to give us more money, but someone out in the world will hate us. Or we can like give the whole deposit back and now we're upset at them and we've done free work. Or we can negotiate with them and find like what's a good compromise that both people feel good about. We ended up doing that. We split the deposit, gave them half back, and now they're happy, we're happy. They refer us clients. It was tough. I think there's a moment in business where you have to like play hardball and have people that hate you. Like it sucks. Not everyone's gonna love you, and that's hard for me because a little bit of a people pleaser, but like there's just a moment where you should be like, that was wrong. And like if you hate me for it, like I've done everything that I feel like I can to remedy it, but like if there's bad blood, there's bad blood.
When there's a lot of money at stake and you've invested a lot of time in something, it creates tension. No one likes tension, but I think over time, even as you've dealt with that once or twice, and I know I've dealt with it in real estate, we have earnest money deposits and they've been lost before.
Yeah.
Transactions, people wired money to the wrong account, just disappeared. Usually we are the ones at fault, but we are the problem solvers to help resolve it.
You have to, yeah, the situation's on fire, yeah.
But so anyway, over time you get better at handling these high stress situations that involve money, and I think as you do it more and more, you figure out where is that line of good business, and do I want this person's business in the future? Were they enjoyable and like were they front up to this process? I think it's a hard decision to make, but I think it's important to always approach it with empathy. Say, okay, I understand that they need this. It's not, in the contract we could keep the money, but I think that there's, what is fair in this situation, and then what is also gonna keep this bridge accessible so we can do future business together.
Yeah. That's like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy, and there was some hardship, but you kind of split the difference. And in the future, you think of that person, they think of you, and it's good. But unfortunately, not every situation is like that.
Right.
Some people are unrealistic, and sometimes we have shadows and blind spots, and they create versions of like finger pointing and like everyone's the bad guy, you know?
Right. Well, that's a great answer to a complex question. You know, what is good business? I guess I have two last questions. I would like to just give you an opportunity to talk about one of the greatest pieces of advice that you have learned over the last 5 years, starting a clothing company, transitioning into this producer role. What is one great piece of advice that you could offer to our listeners?
I give you a few of the nuggets that have really changed my life. Wisdom is free, so find people that are experts and just sponge up as much wisdom. I think the mentorship life is it's dying a little bit with our generation because there's so much information accessible online. But people that have experienced things are hungry to share. And so wisdom's free. Like, go sponge up as much wisdom as you can. Be gentle with yourself. Like, when you fail or when things don't go right, the more gentle you learn to become with yourself, the easier you'll be able to glide through those low moments. So trying to find a way to be really gentle when you fail or when you make mistakes or when you just need to like give yourself a little hug in a tough moment. Surround yourself by good people. It's tough. You know, we grow up with people, we're surrounded, our whole lives, we're surrounded by people that are really close and important to us, but sometimes we just drift apart. It's not a good or a bad thing, but we all grow in different directions. And I think it's important to know where you want to go and who wants to go to similar places or who helps you stay balanced and keeping them close.
Right.
I look at my best friends and it's people in the wellness space that really hold me down. It's people that are great at business. It's insane creatives. It's people that, you know, help me date better. Like, it's a well-rounded tribe of people that are going to help me excel into a version of myself that I really want to be. And I've had to have conversations with people that are really close that we just grown apart. And it's not a bad thing. It's just like, you want this and I want that, and we'll always be friends, but like, I don't think as close as we were. And so those tough conversations are really rewarding if they're done the right way. So surrounding yourself by good people.
And being intentional about managing who you let in that inner circle and who you let go over time.
Yeah, exactly.
But always leaving the door open so that, you know, you are still, you know, we're going to be great friends, but right now I need people in my inner circle that are going to help me get to this goal, which is my passion.
That's it. And like, once you surround yourself by those people and it clicks, everywhere you look, you're going to get support for the thing you're going through.
I think it's also about putting yourself in the environment, like at Humans Are Social, in the content creation space, finding where you need to be.
Yeah.
You're inevitably going to be introduced to those people.
Yeah. I would say one of my superpowers on this note is I'm good at seeing who's good at what and like taking what I think is the good and leaving the bad. Because everyone has something to give you. Like, it's kind of an openness that you bring to a relationship where you're like, there's something you do really well, or there's something you excel at or thrive at. Like, what is that? How can I extract it, make my own version of that, and try to leave the stuff that I think won't serve me or might harm me in the long term? And I feel like I've been good in my life at just being around people and sponging up the stuff that I think will help me excel. And so learning as much from the people around you and like putting yourself in situations where there are fruitful individuals surrounding you is a way to just supersize your future.
Right, and accelerate the process.
Yeah.
And also make it more enjoyable.
Make it more fun.
Yeah.
Be curious.
People you want to like live life with. Because I think that's, a lot of people always say it's not about where you live, it's about who you're with.
Dude, it's who you're doing it with.
It's not about where you go, it's about how the people made you feel.
Yeah, you could be in a really shitty situation with someone awesome, and it's like kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Seriously.
You could be
stuck in a cave.
Yeah.
We could be stuck in a cave right now.
We'd be laughing.
Filming a podcast in the dark.
There's enough light right there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. I think that's great advice.
All right, my question to you: if you had $1 million and you could film anything you wanted, what would it be?
I think it would involve a helicopter.
Of course.
So we're like at 10,000 feet in a helicopter up in the Northern California coastline, kind of hovering above the cliffs of Big Sur. And I'm being interviewed about cash flow and the ways you can get there through real estate. So I jump out of this helicopter while Sean here is filming me and skydiving next to me. I continue the interview. We start paragliding. I'm still interviewing.
Clean audio.
Thing you know,
Clean audio.
The next thing you know, we're getting close to the water. Little did the audience know, but I was wearing a wetsuit this whole time.
Sneaky you.
With a dive suit and one of those respirators where you can continue talking while you're diving.
More clean audio.
We're underwater. I'm continuing this interview about cash flow and how it has allowed me to become financially free to pursue these audacious dreams of jumping out of helicopters and
While showcasing. While showcasing that.
living it while I'm interviewing it.
That's credibility.
So I think the way this scene ends is I get onto a boat in my dive suit. The boat drops me off on the coast. I swim to shore and I rip off the wetsuit in a James Bond-esque scene, wearing a suit, walk into a dinner party, continuing the interview.
This is like a old
Grabbing a cocktail, shaking hands, bumping shoulders with some important people, those people who are most close to me at this party, and resulting with an ending of the interview and a toast to enjoying, I don't know, maybe a 10-year anniversary between me and Taylor. So I guess with that said, I got about 8 years left because Taylor and I were married just 2 years ago. So,
we get that million.
Hey, Sean, I got to say, I appreciate you coming on this show. Thank you for all the insights that you've provided for our listeners. It was a great question at the end there. It got me really excited. I think I needed that because I was getting a little like, I was like, what is my dream anymore? I think you brought a lot of nuggets to the podcast today. If you are listening to the show, we really appreciate you. Please like and share this with anybody you think this would be valuable information for. Sean, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
I'd say Instagram is probably the best, at Sean Zizzy.
Sean Zizzy. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
And link that. That's the portal to all things Sean.
Cool, Sean. Well, I think it's time for us to take these e-foils out.
Let's go hit the water.
Yeah, let's do it, man.